Another week and another world record for Peterbot with his new trio, with Ritual slotting in. They dropped over 600 points, breaking the world record for the most amount of points. They dropped 3 separate 20 bombs. I'll talk about how they managed to do this, why they're looking even better with Ritual. I also want to talk about how the rest of the NA finals went. We had a big performance from Booga dominating Cooper's team on spawn. We had Clix's team doing very well, but I think they can do even better. We have an update around the corner, which is going to add a whole bunch of map changes and potentially some new exotics, including a Breacher Deagle that'll break all builds in one shot. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. What is the best mouse for Fortnite? I know a lot of you guys are switching off controller right now and you keep asking me, what should you get for a mouse and keyboard? I recently talked about how I love the Razer Huntsman V3 as my keyboard, but my favorite mouse is the Razer Death Adder. I have been using this mouse since 2006, since before some of you guys were even alive. I was using the original Death Adder way back when, but we now have the V3 Pro, which launched last year in 2024, and we even have the Fortnite edition of the V3 Pro because Fortnite players love this mouse so much. But why? The ergonomic shape of it is super comfortable. It fits perfectly in my hands. It weighs under 65 grams. It is wireless, but it has up to 90 hours of battery life, and you can get the 8,000 hertz polling rate dongle to run it at super speeds. I've been using this mouse now for almost 20 years, way back before I was a Razer ambassador, but you can now buy this mouse at Razer.com and use code Aussie5 at checkout for 5% off, or click the link down below. If you guys tried to play Fortnite at all, you probably know what I'm going to say here, but we have no EU to talk about today because you couldn't play Fortnite during the EU Div 1 finals. They fixed the queues like 15 minutes after they rescheduled it, but EU finals have been a couple days, but we'll talk about NA because there is already plenty to talk about with NA. If you watched it all, you already know Peterbot won yet again. That's 12 trio final wins in a row, also marking I think 7 in a row or even more with Ritual as well. We have to remember Ritual, Cold, and Peterbot have now not lost a trio finals in chapter 6. I know obviously they lost grands. They came second by like 20 points. Everyone freaked out and said that they were awful. Richie sold this and that. People forget that this team hasn't lost a trio Cash Cup finals yet together, and they absolutely dominated this one. 614 points. Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo in second again. The other best team on the region according to most people. Our 2 LAN teams, 388 points. 614 compared to 388. Ritual, Cold, and Peterbot got back-to-back over 20 elimination wins. Listen to this match history. 18 Elim second, 12 Elim 5th, 25 elimination win, 24 elimination win, 12 Elim 12th, and a 22 Elim 7th. They dropped 3 separate 20 bombs in a single trio Cash Cup finals of set lobbies in one of the most stacked lobbies we've seen. It's not like there was a bunch of big teams missing. This lobby had all the best of the best, and they absolutely dominated it. This is only one Cash Cup finals of this season, but I would argue from what I saw today, Ritual, Cold, and Peterbot look even better than they did when they were going into grand finals last season. After winning every single trio Cash Cup finals, being the clear favorite to win it and then not winning it, I would now say they look even better. Ritual going and playing with Acorn and Aegis and leveling up his fighting ability, stepping into more of that support fragger role with them because Acorn was the hard IGL. I think Ritual learning those extra skills and working on them has now allowed him to back up Cold and Peterbot even better. Now, you've probably seen on social media people pulling out the Kinch stats, or Ritual had a 0.8 damage ratio. He did this little damage compared to Peterbot, and Cold had this many elims. I think Ritual is playing his role perfectly right now. He is supporting Cold and Peterbot and allowing them to absolutely pop off. And I know people are always going to say, but Poyo would have done even better. If Poyo was on their team, they would have got 700 points, and I get it. People love Poyo. He's the 4-time FNCS champion for a reason, and I think Poyo is phenomenal, but I think there's something about the way that Ritual is playing around Cold and Peterbot that's allowing Peterbot and Cold to excel even more, which sucks because people are just going to look at the stats of Cold and Peterbot, look at Ritual stats and say, oh, Richie's getting carried, but they're breaking world records. They got more points they did playing with Ritual today than they did playing with Poyo last week. I think over 100 points more. So I get it. People are going to look at stats, and because people say that Ritual sold last grand finals, he's going to get targeted with hate even though they're breaking records. But I really do think there needs to be a new discussion in Fortnite around players that seem to have their players on their team excel. There's been so many conversations around how Acorn gets carried, or Cold carried Acorn. Acorn got carried in this. There's a few players that I think just really elevate the players that they play with, either whether it's like they make them feel confident, or whether they make them feel mentally better aware, or if they put them in a better position. Maybe they give them all the best guns, they support them, they play off them to make sure they can thrive. And I think that should be a factor. In sports, if there there was a captain of a team that's always getting carried, people would start to attribute that to the captain, or they bring the best out of their players. They really, lead them to, to success. But for some reason in Fortnite, we don't really talk about that. So I wanted to kind of take a moment to kind of, maybe hopefully help a bit of the hate that's being thrown at Ritual after breaking a world record amount of points. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they played so incredibly well. And I love how Ritual is just there to back up Cold and Peterbot in any moment. He was doing a lot of the end game tarping, but the IGLing was still Peterbot in the early game. That's why I think Ritual working on his fighting ability and kind of playing with Acorn and Aegis has leveled up this team, because Pete has a great early and mid game strategy. They even got contested 2 of the games at Crime City. They wiped the team 1 game, the other game they got out of there, and they still managed to pop off this hard. Having Ritual take over in the end game so Peterbot can do what Peterbot does is awesome, but I love the way Peterbot is taking charge in the early and mid game, being super aggressive, and this team is fighting incredibly confidently. In game 6, they even went and hunted down Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo, took them down in a 3v3. It was ridiculous. I know it was deliberate as well. Peterbot wanted to find their team. It wasn't to try to ruin their tournament. They were already pretty much guaranteed second. There was almost no way Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo were going to overcome Peterbot and beat them, but I don't know if it was a statement or whether it was just to get the practice in fighting the other best team on the region, but they rotated straight into their territory, took the 3v3, and it was pretty crazy. Now, I will say, for Aegis, Acorn, and Poyo, Acorn is still in Canada. He's playing on about 60 to 70 ping right now. He will be back on Hard Zero, I believe, for next Div 1 finals. You can think about that as much as you will. I know 60 ping versus 0 is a big difference, but is it going to be over 200 points difference? We're going to have to wait and see. I think Acorn, Aegis, and Poyo also played really well. Again, second place, 388 points, considering game 6, they got ran down in 21st. They couldn't obviously go on to have as good of a game as they had been. Their last 2 games, the ones that let them down, back-to-back 21st. Before that, they got a 5 Elim 3rd, 5 Elim 3rd, 3 Elim 7th, and 13 Elim 3rd. So really, really good gameplay by them. Even without that 6th game, they did still get over 100 points on 3rd place. Clicks, Higgs, and Iomzo. I will say Clicks, I don't think was at his absolute best. He did mention at the start of the stream he's feeling a bit jet lagged. He did manage just to go to London and back, do an entire IRL event within 3 days, arrive the morning of finals, and then play Div 1 finals. So fair enough, Clicks probably wasn't at his absolute peak as well. It is worth mentioning on the topic of Clicks, he hit his 250,000 supporter creator code. So we now have bald Clicks. He has the 0 input delay haircut now. So we'll see if that makes a difference going forward. We had Muzz, Curly, and Rise in 4th, who I think will be playing really, really well. I'm excited to see how this trio continues to grow. I love the fact that Curly's fit into this trio, doing well, playing with 2 phenomenal players and stepping up to the occasion. We had Kanata, G-Money, and O-Sid get 5th. Now Kanata was uncontested, got 5th place by 3 points. Really solid performance. Scare, Edgy, and Chance kicked off with a game 1 10 elimination win. I'm excited to see how this trio does, because Edgy, who's one of, the most decorated players in NA, 4 second place in FNCS and an FNCS win under his belt and a whole bunch of other big placements. He stepped into the IGLing role after being one of the most veteran fraggers in the region. He's playing alongside Scare Bear, a controller player who hasn't had a lot of big placements, but I was talking to Edgy, apparently he's crazy, and Chance, very underrated fragger right now as well. So if Edgy can step up his IGLing, I think this trio could be really, really solid. We have Booger, Threats, and Craze in 7th, while being contested by Cooper, Vidil, and Sphinx. So it's pretty safe to guess who actually won this spawn fight. I would say it was like a 4-0-2 spawn split. Booger, Threats, and Craze won the spawn fight 4 times. They lost it 0 times, and then both teams split the drop twice. So the splits you can call whether, Vidil's team got more loot, they got the vault, and Booger had to run. But Booger, Threats, and Craze did not go down a single time inside Seaport, and they came 7th. So I'm giving it to them. They played phenomenally. We had Visuals, Braids, and Minished in 8th, Taki, Ishu, and Vert in 9th, and then Eulogy, Phenom, and Yusuf in 10th. So again, looking at Cooper, Vidil, and Sphinx doing phenomenal up until this point, coming 31st overall. So we had Vidil's team in 31st and Booger's team in 7th. I don't know whether we're going to see any drop spot swaps maybe from this one. We could now have Cooper, Vidil, and Sphinx looking for another drop spot, which could be disastrous for some of the other teams finally settling into their drop spots. We had Reet get uncontested pumped power after fighting for it for such a long time in 16th. We had quite a few EU players playing in this tournament. We had 4 different EU teams. I will shout out Queasy, Hellfire, and Thomas, and Seti, Hari, Kami, who both got top 15. Queasy's team doing it from contested fields. Don't know how that happened as well, but across the board, it was a very exciting, very stacked finals. we have a major update tomorrow, so I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but I do want to talk about some changes that are coming out in the near future. We have a confirmed One Piece update, which I don't know if this is going to affect competitive at all, but I know One Piece is a collaboration a lot of you guys have been wanting. It's been getting a lot of hype on social media. Super excited to see how this one goes. Don't know if it's going to get any items or just cosmetics, but I'm sure an update like this, a collab that's been, hyped up for this many years with so many teasers, I'm pretty sure they're going to go all out and give it a very, very solid update. But in the near update, in this update, Mortal Kombat, whatever we're getting for April Fools, we have a few items that I'm a little bit concerned about. So firstly, we have 2 new exotics coming to the game very, very soon. We have the Breacher Deagle, which is going to one-shot any build and cover. And we also have the exotic Boom Bolt. We don't even know what that does yet. Now, the Boom Bolt sounds kind of like pubby. I don't think that's going to make it into competitive, but I could see them putting this Breacher Deagle in. We have quite a few exotics that are making their way into competitive. They're obviously deciding whether they fit competitive, whether they don't before they put them in. I could see the Breacher Deagle coming in, which could be very, very interesting. That's the only way we're going to see Peterbot somehow destroy people even quicker, that is giving people the ability to get rid of walls in a single shot. If you guys remember what the Deagle was like when it one-shot walls, it was ridiculous. So I'm a little bit scared to see if this one makes it into competitive. The other one that I think actually has the highest chance of making it into competitive is the new Mortal Kombat mythic we're getting. It's the Scorpion mythic. It has the get over here ability, which I'm guessing will like shoot a chain and pull them towards you. If that goes through boxes like the Carnage mythic used to, gonna be very scary. If it makes it into competitive, we'll see. But something that is definitely going to be in tournaments is the map changes. We now have 3 new areas on the map that are featured around Mortal Kombat. They look really sick. This bridge with the spikes under it looks insanely hectic. We have the forest, and then we also have what they're calling the Deadpool. Guessing a reference to Deadpool, but it looks like it might just be more of a meme than anything. These don't look like they're going to be huge map changes, changing entire POIs, but they could add a bit of loot. They could definitely change up some of the areas of the map that maybe don't have as much loot. I'm excited to see how it plays out though.